Welcome back to the Empower365 Podcast, where we sit down with innovators, builders, and entrepreneurs who are not just participating in industries, they're shaping them. Today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to. We're diving into a niche that most people don't fully understand yet, but it's quietly becoming one of the most important shifts in marine energy, walkable solar. Joining me today is Harrison Baker, managing partner at Custom Marine Products, a company leading the charge in walkable, shade-tolerant marine solar panels and integrated power systems. Today, we're diving deep into why education is the biggest growth lever, how they're expanding their customer base, and why good technology in 2026 is going to be key to separate themselves. Harrison, welcome to the pod, man.
Thank you
Welcome
for
to the
having me.
pod.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to this. I've been edging on for it the whole week, so I'm looking forward to this.
So I got to ask Harrison, like you're a young guy, you're super charismatic. You must have had a good family, man.
Oh yeah.
How'd you get to be such a good, charismatic guy?
Well, I mean, you are 100% correct. I really do have a great relationship with my parents. I think from a young age, my dad and mom were very involved with my life. They really encouraged me to kind of pursue whatever I wanted to do. So there's a periods of time where I was building, model engines and, different kinds of, just fun mechanical stuff. And, they, one day, like in church, I heard that I wanted to, I heard this instrument and I go, Dad, what is that? What's that sound? And he was like, I don't know. I think that could be a French horn. And so I did that, and that, they got me into playing, an instrument before I really was even physically able to hold it. Like the horn was pretty much the size of me, and did that, thought that that was going to be a professional career for me. But then they really pushed me to take some different exploratory camps. So there's something called Explo at Yale, and there was an opportunity to do a music production course and a entrepreneurship course out of a variety of other things. And because, one's a more advantageous business avenue for, music. The other one is something to maybe get me into business, something that my parents had been involved with. So my mom owned her own kind of human connection business called the Humax Corporation and Give and Take Inc. And my dad was a PhD professor at the Ross School of Business on the sociology side, so like the people side of business. And I think, that kind of laid the groundwork for me, but really got into that entrepreneurship class, dove into it, came up with a company for athletes with braces, specifically like a mouth guard company. And, you know, got third in the nation with Business Professionals of America. First time joining that club in high school. Got a provisional patent for the mouth guard. Didn't take it any further because the real profitability wasn't there at the time. 3D printing technology was not cheap enough to mass produce it with food grade plastics. But just from a young age, I've been really involved with a variety of different things, and my parents pushed that for sure, but in a way that supported me and never was like, you have to do this. You got to be a lawyer. You got to be an engineer. They're just like, what are you interested in? Let's give you the opportunities to explore that. And that's kind of landed me here. Got interested in tech, got the opportunity to do a home security and solar job when I was in college. And then through a grapevine conversation, owner of CMP, or Custom Marine Products, Tom Trimmer, was talking to my dad and said, we're looking to expand the team. Do you know anyone? Like thinking that he's going to, reference someone in his class or something like that, or, one of his graduate students. He's like, well, my son happened to just complete a summer doing door knocking for a home security and solar company. Let's give him a shot. Created my own kind of plan with the company, wrote out a multiple page idea of what I thought my role could be here. Started more as a sales rep, and then from there have graduated into kind of this more managerial role, helping with decisions, product development, different applications for solar, different ways to use it, and do a lot of the B2B for the business.
It's bad. Nice. Yeah, you're definitely well-rounded. Congratulations, mom and dad. You've raised a very, very fine man.
Well,
Very
thank
fine
you.
man. Hey, so I wanted to start here.
Yeah.
Marine solar is technical. It's misunderstood, and honestly, most boat owners get bad advice. So let me ask you directly: how much of your business today is actually education versus just out there selling panels and your
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah. I don't know, it's a good 50-50. A lot of our market is OEM businesses, service centers, places that kind of do that education for us and just supply our products. But we've served the DIY market from the get-go, and that's really where we started. So we started with individuals who just wanted to have reliable power, didn't necessarily know much about it. And, I'll say I'll have certain sales conversations where you can't even really call it sales. Somebody who calls in and goes, I know I need solar from my boat. I've got no idea what to do or how to do it. Can you help me? And we sit there for an hour, 2 hours on the phone going over their boat, applications, making sure that this system's properly sized. Because our goal isn't to just sell as many panels as possible. Of course, we'd like to. We want people to have the system they actually need, not something that's just like 20 panels on a boat. In most cases, you need like one or two, for a lot of the smaller, sailboats, things that are under 30 feet. You're looking at, smaller systems. And, we do a lot on the education front too. So we work with like the Great Lakes Cruising Club. And every year we do a solar and battery lecture, and we get involved with different, captain lessons and on shipping kind of stuff. And we tie in there on the electrical side and just educate people on what's available, how to use it, and, kind of the where things can go wrong.
I love that, man. I love that because in my experience, especially in niche industries, the company that educates their customer base the best ends up owning the market. What are the biggest misconceptions you see boat owners make when it comes to solar? Is it
Uh,
buying cheap panels? Is it the shading, improper mounting, or not even calculating the energy capabilities of it?
yeah, well, you nailed two of them. So definitely one is, the cost. I think a lot of the times people look at the cost of residential panels and just assume that that can work in the marine market. Well, in most of the cases, it's not going to. You can't transfer something over in the same capacity for shading reasons, vibration, mounting options. So, that definitely is something that we comes up as a not I wouldn't say a roadblock, but just yeah, kind of a misconception. You'll see other companies who do RV solar and might see something that's on a much lower, cost perspective. But would you look down into kind of the specifics of it, it's solar and output, or excuse me, it's shading and output per square foot. So on a vessel, you don't have much space. Either it's on dinghy davits, you've got it on the deck, maybe a canvas bimini, and that's really all that you have. And so your surface area isn't super available. Those cheaper panels usually have a smaller or a cell that has a lower efficiency. So you need more of them to get the same output. We might look at a 200-watt panel on a competition. You're maybe looking anything between 13 to 16 watts per square foot, where our smallest panel starts at 17, and the average is 18 to 20 watts per square foot, depending upon the size. So you get more power out of a smaller space. And then comes shading, like you mentioned. You've got rigging, you've got sails, you've got, different sun angles that you can't control because your boat will turn the way the wind is when it's anchored, or you're just going along with the elements. It's not like a house where you can say, well, the south-facing side is going to get the most sun, so we put the panels there. You need to keep in mind where the sun is going to be, what type of year it is, and the other rigging and environmental effects on the boat. And so shading is a major issue. And when you use those other panels, you lose 40 to 80% of the output by just covering something like with a form. Like with the panel behind me, covering this much, just those cells, on a standard panel, you're going to lose 40 to 80%. Well, you can see the majority of the panel is still visible, right? You're not covering 40 to 80% of it, but you'll
Right.
lose that much because of the cell layout and the types of cells that they're using.
That's interesting. That's huge because when people hear about walkable solar, they think it's just convenience, but it's
hmm
not just about stepping on it. It's about structural integrity, longevity, efficiency under the shade, real world marine durability. What would you say education is your competitive moat?
That's definitely part of it. I think the shade tolerant wiring itself is not something you'll find anywhere else. So there's just pure differences in the products that we offer. We use an ETFE laminate, and for a long time, no one else in the market used it. And so you'd see common delamination issues, and over the past 15 years, you've seen it become the standard. So we got into that lamination process much earlier than anyone else on the market and mastered it. ETFE does not like to stick together. And delaminations is a huge issue that you'll see in some of the cheaper options. You won't get the rated lifetime because the panels will start to peel. The cells themselves might produce, but once the peeling happens, you get moisture and cell damage and corrosion that results in the panels effectively being negligible. You'll also see the advertised walkability, like they're strong enough to walk on. But if you're on a boat, you know it's going to be moving around. Are you always going to have in level footing? Say you're changing sails on a catamaran or some vessel where you're standing on the panels and it's rocking about. You're not going to have equal grounded footing the whole time. You might have to stand on something or you might stumble here and there. And that pinpoint pressure can cause issues. I was just working with a customer yesterday who bought some walkable panels and they work. He can walk on them, but he literally showed me cracks in the cells on FaceTime. And, he said like, if your panels are walkable, I don't need them. So like, how confident are you in the ability to actually walk on them? And I kind of shared the story I just shared with you. So we have a thicker ETFE laminate. We have some anti-cracking materials in the back of the panels. And then the solar cells themselves are a bit more durable than your typical PERC or HJT cells.
So these things can handle like a good fishing charter, man.
Yes.
A captain of a fishing charter would be pretty stoked to have these things.
Absolutely. We actually have him on a fishing fleet in Kodiak, Alaska. So it's an individual who's got 1,200 watts of solar on his vessel. And he went from running his generator pretty much all day to run the nets, keep the fish cool, the freezers running, all that kind of stuff all day. He's now using his generator maybe an hour to 30 minutes a day, depending upon how much sun is available, if it's the winter versus the summer. Summertime, you'll get better sunlight. Winter, there's obviously less. But it saved him a copious amount of fuel. So it's not only the fact that you get to have reliable power, you get to have it on demand, and you can charge your batteries, you're also fuel savings. And on my side, I see an environmental impact too, because I want to keep our oceans clean. I want, there to be a ocean to swim in. I love fish. I love sushi. I don't want, our stock to be depleted or to have them become sick. And if we're dumping fumes and oil into these environments all the time, if there's any way we can decrease the amount that's needed, it's really monumental. So I think that's another aspect to look at too, is that there's an environmental impact you're making by going with solar for these applications.
Be really important for people. Hey, let's talk strategy real quick. How are you actively educating the market today? Are you focused on video tutorials, install walkthroughs, customer consultations, or just dealer training?
A lot of customer consultation and dealer training. I'd say this year in particular, we're going to be more active on social media, doing those kind of walkthroughs, doing a lot of that stuff. So that's something that I've been pushing hard for, and we're making an initiative to do this year. But previously, what the business has been built on, and I want to speak on that because that's what I have experience with, and that's what's grown us to the size we are. It's just been a lot of consultation and educating any kind of dealer with the same kind of education I got about how to design a system, the typical do's and don'ts, the shading issues, the true walkability, or the quality that's needed for these kind of environments. So educating individuals on that. We've got a very detailed website. So that's something that a lot of customers have come to us and have actually appreciated. Commonly when I'm searching for stuff online, if there's a lot of words, it's difficult for me to figure out what I want or where I'm supposed to go. But for whatever reason, our clientele has been very appreciative of the amount of detail that's available because they said they can't find it anywhere else. They're watching YouTube videos from individuals that call themselves solar pros, without any company backing or some just individual solar installer business. But coming from someone that's been in the space or business that's been in the space for 15 years with a plethora and history of blog posts, articles, diagrams, videos, you name it, it's allowed people to educate themselves and then come to us and be able to have that conversation. So it's not just walking people through each individual step, but also getting them educated so that they can have a meaningful conversation.
Yeah, that's key. So your focus is going to be building out kind of that digital education. I think it'll allow you to reduce the friction at every stage, probably in the sales process. That's great. And you probably see this as like a long-term asset for the company?
Absolutely. Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, your digital footprint doesn't go anywhere. It's the minute you put it online, someone can find it even if you delete the video. So, not saying that obviously that's what we would do, but to just really emphasize how meaningful that is. I mean, I grew up in the digital age. Our owners are significantly older than I am, but that's how I learned about a lot of stuff when I was a kid. Even if I had problems in college with my, accounting course or something like that, I went to YouTube and watched a lecture video that honestly was better than the lecture I sat in. And so,
Totally, right?
yeah, and it's kind of crazy. It's like I'm spending thousands and thousands of dollars for this class, but I can't retain any of the information. So, it's really meaningful. And getting involved with our dealers and having them record installs is something that we're pushing for because every installation is different. Every boat is different. Even something that came from the same manufacturer on the same year might be wired by a different technician, and certain things will be different and in different places. So that education piece is huge.
Let's kind of stick to the customer base here a little bit. And let's continue to focus on growth. Who is your core customer today? Is it primarily DIA boat owners, LIBA boards, charter operations, or OEM boat manufacturers?
It's tough to say, we're early into the year, but February has been huge on service centers and OEM type businesses. So we've done everything from just the kind of do it all service center to, I'll shout out Catalina and Sons. They're a greedy white dealer out in Connecticut. And we recently partnered up with them. They had a customer who's on mooring, and they're looking to do kits with us. So once that customer install goes in, the idea is that, well, this is something that can become standard and we can sell to literally anyone that's purchasing a new boat. And that is becoming very key for the business. We've got another partner out in Florida, Just Catamarans, who has trusted us with a new panel design. So a 550-watt rigid panel, that's for high voltage situations. So high enough voltage that you can power a 48-volt system without running them in series. And that matters because when you run them in series, it's like having one big panel. And if you shade one of them, it's going to affect the output of the rest of the system. But if you can wire your panels in parallel and you shade one, it won't affect the output from the other individual panels. So the solar controller can see the panels split up and will have better production. So that's been a huge add-on to our business. We still are getting DIY customers and still supporting that, but I think the OEM service industry is really going to be key moving forwards. People trust those that they know, and I'm just some random guy that they're calling, right? And trusting that I have the right information. But if their boatyard that they've had the boat in for 15 years now carries our products, it's not really going to be a question of, is this quality or not, or do you know how to use it? They've already trusted that person for the past 10, 15 years with their boat. It's a no-brainer now.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Here's more strategic question
Mhm.
with your company. You're building a brand that sells to customers. Are you building infrastructure that powers other brands? Because there's a big difference. One path builds consumer loyalty, the other builds industry dependency. Which direction are you guys going
That's
or
hard to
leaning
say.
towards?
I'd say probably leaning towards the industry pipeline. We try to keep up with all the businesses we work with. Like, at the beginning of the year, I'll give calls to some of our key partners, just check in, see how they're doing, what we can do to continue to support them, coming out, doing training sessions and that kind of thing. I think that again falls back to the trust, especially in an age where it's hard to even trust the information you see online. You trust those that you know best. And if you can work with someone that you already trust, it just makes a lot of sense from the consumer side. So, they get the consumer gets the same kind of exposure, but it comes back to training and creating those pipelines with, partner businesses and doing that kind of training. I will say that we've been a very organic business. So, we're not huge on contracts. We have quantity quotas for pricing, but we really just trust those that we work with. And so I think there could be a larger emphasis on that pipeline, continued, education and continued support. And I do believe that would be meaningful and something that we will be, tackling in the forefront of this year.
Let's talk a little technology. I'm curious, like if a customer comes into your store with this huge AI push in 2026, would they be able to basically, let's say, go to your website, input the boat model, deck layout, cruising habits, estimated daily energy use, maybe upload some photos? Would you guys be able to spit out like some battery sizes, an installation diagram, or like even an ROI forecast for them?
Today we don't have that. Yeah,
I
just
think
to be
that's
straight up, we don't have that. Yeah.
gotcha.
Be cool. I'm not, it definitely would be sweet. We have a lot of stuff on the back end that we work with, like Excel. We have an Excel reference spreadsheet where you can punch in all of your data and it will spit out your daily consumption, factor in for cloudy days. So we have a more analog version of that. But part of the issue comes down to, publicly available information. So a lot of boat builders will not post their schematics or anything in regards to how their boats are designed. It's very difficult to find it. Typically, owners will have some kind of manual, so theoretically, they might be able to scan that and upload it, but to get some kind of 3D diagram or a CAD file or something more advanced just isn't really possible. Because when I call saying I'm working with one of your customers that you sold, can I have this just so I can size out the solar system for them? They don't know. That's proprietary information. Can't have it. So pictures and schematics, pictures and the manual would be the really only way to implement it. If we could get that to work consistently, it would be a game changer. Absolutely.
Let's talk some specifics. What are your top 3 growth priorities heading into 2026? Is it revenue, expansion, product innovation, distribution scale, any AI integration, or basically hiring some key leadership to kind of take the company to the next level?
Well, from what I'm involved with, I'd say expansion just across different kinds of industries. Because we've gotten into the van market, the van lifers, RVs, that kind of thing it's become quite popular. So we're definitely pushing quite hard on that. We have a new partner in Houston, Van Sharks, who has been fantastic, and we're a really big fan to be working with them. And then OEMs, like we're really trying to get boat builders and those kind of businesses involved with the solar aspect. I had a call recently with a business, and they essentially said, "Yep, we're getting more interest." And I met the guy in 2024, and so he's, "Hey, we're getting more interest. You're right, but we're not ready to do it. We don't want to make the financial commitment. We don't see enough revenue." And they're a big boat company. They're a premium company. It just said it's not the time for us. And even though the dealers are actively getting interest for it, they decided to leave that in the hands of the dealers. So we're really trying to convince builders that it's something that's meaningful to offer out of the gate, rather than doing something that's a back-end option or a third-party solution. It's something that could just add value to what they're already selling. And outside of that, in terms of expanding the team ourselves, we haven't gotten to the volume where that has made sense. We've definitely thrown the idea around, but we're able to handle what's coming our way pretty well. And I will say that, the systems bog us down a bit. I wouldn't say it's really individuals, but more so just some of the back end systems. So some kind of overarching CRM inventory system, some type of portal for B2B clients would be really crucial. But a lot of the businesses we work with are more traditional businesses to begin with. So it's also convincing them that having a portal would be meaningful. Because a lot of them just want to call in to place an order rather than going to the website and punching in a discount code, even though we've already created that for them. It's just something where they want to call in. They have specific system questions or design things that they just want to bring up regardless. So see a avenue, but I'm not sure how it could be implemented. And again, I'm not the expert in that field. So it's something that, we'd need more assistance with. And then just overall cost is something that our owners are they're very price adverse. So they're looking for ways to continue to grow the business in a way that doesn't cost much. Like we do spend on marketing and SEO and those kind of traditional avenues. But when it comes down to implementing new technologies, even though I'd say, we accept crypto now, it's just something that Shopify built in. So it's a lot easier to do that. But on the back end, we've taken BNB, so the Binance token before. We've taken some ETH here and there, and people have just sent that to our addresses. So on the payment side, I think, that's easy to integrate because it doesn't really cost anything. But on the
Right.
back end, on the inventory management, the CRM, that kind of stuff can get pricey. And for owners who have followed things in a very traditional way and have grown the business to this size and kept it steady for so long, it's hard to make that transition. Whereas someone like me who grew up in the digital age, I mean, I was born in '02. Like, the only thing I ever knew was technology. I was begging for an iPod Touch when I was in fifth grade. It's so to me, it seems like a no-brainer, but it also seems costly to implement. Now, I know there's savings and revenue and extra things that can be generated on the back end, but from the meetings that we've taken with businesses previously, they've had a very hard time proving what actually comes from a business like ours because we're so niche. They have these examples of bigger big box stores, or some small company that sells jackets, or custom shoes or something like that. Well, it's pretty clear, to show that transition, but a company like ours with so much breadth, it's just been difficult to see how it would be implemented. Not that it doesn't make sense, though.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's hard, just talking from my own experience is trying to get some of these owners that, are 60, 70 years old running fantastic businesses. It's hard to steer the ship and be like, "Hey, it's time, right? We got to start
Yeah.
building our whether it's an off the box shelf or even a custom system. It's time, and it just streamlines the process, makes the transparency unbelievable. And I think most companies are going there where even your customer base, they're going to be used to hopping into a portal, getting their answers, knowing with a company like you guys, hey, I can always pick up the phone and call somebody.
But, if you've got a question at 9 p.m., you don't want to give me a call. And honestly, I don't want you to call me. I might pick it up. I mean, I might. I'm not going to want to. So if you can get that question answered, and if that means you can get back to a customer that much faster, keep them in the cycle, keep them in the business, it's something that would be really meaningful.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, kind of bigger thought. Where do you feel the marine energy is headed in the next 5 years? Are we looking at like generator free cruising, solar assisted like hybrid yachts, fully electric vessels? I mean, solar is becoming a standard in all OEM boats. Where does custom marine products sit in that ecosystem?
Yeah.
You guys, you're a component supplier, a system integrator. I mean, you guys do great stuff on the walkable marine part. Where do you see you guys going?
I think that solar will always have its place because it's effectively an infinite fuel source. So even if you go hydrogen or LNG or, some kind of natural gas, you're still going to need to fuel up at some point. And if you're going to produce it in the ocean, like theoretically you could produce hydrogen, you take the seawater up and you run it through some desalinization processes and then do the hydrogen conversion. That's possible, but where are you getting the power for that? Are you going to have a gas generator that also requires it? Or are you going to have batteries that you charged up with maybe a hydrogen generator? But what if that goes out? Then you have no option to produce fuel. So even if we do go to natural gases, hydrogen, or some kind of other combustible, solar is still going to be necessary to make sure that the batteries are always available for you to make sure that conversion happens. Now, will I say that we're going to get full solar sailing? It's something or sailing, yes. Powerboats, maybe. The efficiency just isn't there yet. You'd need to essentially have a barge behind you to power a fully electric vehicle. We've been running through this with a specific business, and the challenges have just been like, what's a realistic top speed for the vessel under solar power and just battery power, and how long can we essentially have infinite range? You're looking at a pretty slow speed. You're looking at sailboat speed and something that's designed like a powerboat. So
Right.
the conversion efficiency is just not there yet. Now there's some Tricon cells from like NASA uses them, and those are super high efficiency. But you can imagine if NASA's using it, it's probably pretty expensive. So the availability for those 30% efficiency cells, they're out there, but not something that's commercially available. And if we're going to bring back manufacturing to the US, it would be super sweet if that manufacturing could be something that outperforms where a lot of these cells are made. So if we could mass produce what NASA's using, that 30, 40%, I could fully see electric boats being powered just by solar, but really it's a range extender at this time. In the future, you could see it, but I think we're going to go to more efficient gas powered vessels, so hydrogen, LNG, those kind of things. But to even do that conversion or to keep up those generators or batteries when you run out of fuel, the only option still is solar, unless you're going to do nuclear power, which is possible. And
Awesome.
it's in submarines. There's some nuclear powered submarines, but that's a whole nother ball game. And the cost is astronomical. The certifications. And the other thing too is, what if you got a nuclear vessel and you're transporting oil, coal, or, chemicals for agricultural industries, and that thing goes boom, the whole ship is gone.
Yeah, for
So,
sure, man.
yeah, I think solar will always have its place and if it's not for the purpose of transportation, it's to support the transportation that's being done. So it's more so as a secondary until efficiency gets up there.
That's be no way to make the news cycle for sure. All
Yeah.
right. You know what I mean? All right, we're
Yeah.
gonna do a little rapid.
Okay.
Most misunderstood thing about marine solar.
That it even exists. There's so many businesses that I'll call and they'll be like, "You do what? You're a marine solar company? I've never even heard of that." And they're a service center that's been in business for 25 years. And they've clearly have been doing something right, or they wouldn't be here for that long. So just the idea that it's even possible and that the efficiency has gotten to the point where you can use it. So just the fact that it's even out there.
Rusty. What do you see is the biggest opportunity in the next 24 months?
Ooh, next 24 months. I really think fishing, any kind of shrimping, fishing, so anything that falls under that kind of umbrella, just because those vessels have a lot of surface space and it's something that is critical to any economy, whether it's something that's here in the States or if it's something off the coast of Argentina. Every coastal country has some kind of marine fishing, oyster, whatever. They have some kind of operation. And we're in those industries more towards Asia are outpacing the profitability of those other countries because the cost of labor is cheaper. There's less restrictions on environmental conditions and all of that kind of stuff. So if we could get a way where domestic production or production in other parts of the world could be more profitable and could last longer, you could be out on the water for longer periods of time and do so in a way that doesn't affect the environment, would really help the industry in places where they're being beat out by prices in other parts of the world.
Like I was talking to you prior to hopping on the show, San Diego has one of the most robust fishing industries in the States. I think San Diego is one of the best places right now in the world to fish, just because we get the 200-pound bluefin, we get the
Yeah.
yellowfin, the dorado, the yellowtail. You go rock fishing. It's definitely a big opportunity out here.
And it's funny that you're located there. I'll just say this one thing. Right before we got on the call, like not even 9 minutes before, we got a call from a large distributor in San Diego that was saying, "Well, we've got a client who's asking us to do a solar system and we've never done one before. Can you help us out? And could we even be dealers for you in the future?" And I said, "Yeah, definitely. We'd be happy to help with that." And so that's something that what I will include in my follow-up as an emphasis to push this towards the fishing market, because there's a lot of usability in that space. Pleasure vessels is cool, but it's not as intensive in resource consuming as the fishing industry is.
Yeah, like we have the long range charter boats out here that go from San Diego all the way 50 miles south of Cabo.
Yep.
I mean, it's wild. It's wild. If your company had to double tomorrow, in your opinion, what would break first?
Break first. Probably the order processing and not necessarily the fulfillment. Like, we'd have the ability to get the orders out, but to make sure that all of the right parts and pieces are being selected, that's something that could break, because it's more so of a manual process. So, we have a warehouse, but we work with a few different fulfillment companies depending upon where things are located. And it would be a lot of communication with those individuals. And we've got one person that really helps kind of man that ship. And if tomorrow we got 1,000, I think she'd be up for the next 24 hours processing it all.
Interesting.
So yeah, and part of the issue is that Shopify doesn't perfectly integrate with QuickBooks. Well, the integration's pretty good, and for a standard business, it works very well. But when you have product codes that are changing every couple months, or things in inventory that are the same size, have the same kind of output, but has slightly different laminate thickness, but it still falls under the same product code on the website, and you're still receiving the same quality product, but on the back end, it's like, well, is it the one that has the polycarbonate in the J channel? So that's what we do with the mounting for the Walkable. So you have a channel that goes through. I'll show the camera. So you've got this kind of thing. So some boxes may have the channel system and the polycarbonate included. Some might not. And if we've got a bunch of people who ordered all of it with this, or with the poly, where we're going to need to order some more, and we're going to be having to wait on that kind of fulfillment before we can even fulfill the rest of the orders. So, you know, I think processing and getting it properly allocated would be a struggle.
And that's kind of back to our previous part of the pod, the systems,
Yeah,
maybe some potential AI integration if it can achieve all the steps
sure.
in the process in a fair testing environment. Interesting. We're almost getting to the end of the pod here. What does success look like for you personally in 2026?
Well, I'd like to be personally responsible for 1 million in revenue. At OEMs, I mean, really, whatever kind of businesses are able to fulfill that, and that's just kind of more of a personal goal. On top of that, it's doing it in a way that's meaningful and consistent of the quality that we have. So we're not looking for, and of course, it'd be nice if we got some big project that makes that happen. But we still need to make sure that we're delivering the same quality to all the other people that I'm interacting with and touching. So it's driving that revenue in a way that does not squish quality. And we've seen that where, businesses get huge, they blow up, and, you go back to their products a year later and you're like, this is not the same thing that I remember ordering, or this is not the same quality that I got previously, because to fulfill that quantity, they had to go to a different distributor, or they had to do a different manufacturing process or something like that to get to that quality. So it's hitting that kind of revenue target, getting that amount of business out there, but doing so in a way that's meaningful and providing the same kind of quality that we already do.
That's awesome, man. Listen, hey, this has been very powerful. This has been a great conversation, man. You're not just building solar panels, you're building education infrastructure, energy independence. Hopefully down the road, you'll be building some good technology to help fulfill.
Crossing my fingers if I could.
Right. Hey, if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best place to find you? Your website, a consultation link,
Yeah,
a
you can
dealer
just go to.
dealer inquiries.
Sure. Yeah. So we've got a dealer inquiry page on the website. You can punch your guys' information in. If you want to reach me directly, my business sells 734-545-2188. You can call, shoot me a text. Email is just Harrison at Custom Marine Products. That's HARRISON at custommarineproducts.com. So you can reach me directly, hit the info box, or fill out, kind of that dealer app. We also have a chat feature that gets caught by some basic AI answers for, kind of top level questions. And then we have the availability to set up meetings, consult, that kind of stuff. So direct line is honestly the best way to do it right now. If we had an organized AI system to gather it, I'd point people in that direction. But for now, the best way is just reaching out directly.
Cool. Hey, so for all you buddies of mine that own boats out in San Diego, I highly recommend you reach out to Harrison, look into the solar. I know you guys are always complaining about gas prices and passing the buck down to me. So
Yeah.
Harrison, listen, I really enjoyed the conversation. I wish you in the company. Great stuff in '06. All right, guys, catch us on the next pod. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.